Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Wednesday, July 19th, 2023. And our top story today, recruiting and retaining public employees remains a challenge, but state and local governments are finding success. Joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Gerald Young is with the Missionsquare Research Institute. Gerald, thanks so much for joining us in the program this morning. Good to see you again and welcome back.
Yeah, glad to be with you, Jeffrey.
Well, we've had you on before, you and your colleagues on before, and you guys are doing such important work at the Missionsquare Research Institute about what state and local governments are doing. And I know we're going to talk about this workforce survey. My first question to you are state and local government employers at full employment today?
They are not. The private sector is largely, I'd say, recovered from the downturn with the pandemic, but state and local governments are still lagging behind where they were in early 2020. And there has been good news. I mean, they have been hiring. It's just that, with the other trends going on in the workforce, particularly, retirements or resignations, they just haven't quite met that level that they were at before COVID-19 hit.
And we've talked about that. There are some headwinds. There's, obviously a very tight labor market. We'll get into the competition for hiring in a few minutes. But just basically, are they hiring more full-time or are they actually hiring part-time workers? Because gig workers is a big trend in other parts of the economy.
Yeah, both full-time and part-time hiring has improved. So I'd say they're hiring both, and they're hiring, in whatever ways they can, whether that's, through traditional means or, as you say, more, creative means such as hiring gig workers. Again, I think the challenge is the overall hiring landscape has changed. And the number of candidates they're getting for these jobs has changed as well.
Gerald, one of the things that we talked about with you and your colleagues during the pandemic was the fact that there were a lot of people choosing to retire. And they just said, hey, I'm out. I'm going to do something else, or I'm just going to retire into the sunset. Is the velocity to retire still as high as it was? Meaning, are people still retiring at the same rate as they were during the pandemic?
Yeah. We started this survey back in about 2009, working with not only the Research Institute, but the Public Sector Human Resources Association and the National Association for State Personnel Executives. And what we saw in the aftermath of the Great Recession was that there were a higher number of retirement-ready individuals who were postponing their retirement plans. A very small percentage who were saying that those plans were being accelerated. That really flipped in 2021, where we saw a lot more people accelerating their plans for health reasons, for economic reasons, whatever the case might have been. But the trends have really continued, not quite as much as the spike in 2021, but even now, looking at both resignations and retirements, the percentage that are saying that it's increased since last year is 3 to 4 times what is the percentage who are saying that those resignations and retirements have decreased.
And Gerald, I want to pick up on the retirement piece because I want to ask you about financial preparedness. Obviously, we're the Broadcast Retirement Network. This is a big part. Are these individuals that are retiring? You mentioned during the pandemic, there were concerns about health. Maybe they just said, I want to do something else. Are they, from the employer's perspective, are these people prepared for their retirement? They have a defined benefit plan, most of them. They may have a defined contribution plan. They may have some other savings, but are they prepared for retirement?
Well, that's definitely a question that's out there. Overall, the people in our survey were saying no, they are not. Only 30% feel that their employees are financially prepared for retirement. That's not to say that it's strictly those at retirement age. Many of those who are unprepared are those who are younger employees who might not have started saving the way they should. But another big part of that is financial understanding, frankly. knowing what they need to do to prepare for retirement and taking the steps necessary. So one of the strategies that a lot of governments are taking is to provide that type of financial wellness education, so that those employees understand, for instance, the impacts of inflation, how that may color their ideas of what they need to do personally to prepare for retirement, or even for other eventualities like emergency savings, or how they deal with debt. All of that goes into not only their personal financial security, but also their satisfaction and willingness to stay in the job that they are in.
Yeah, and it also, if you understand and if you're financially prepared, it really just it lowers your stress level. I mean, and mental health is such a big deal. Jill, just going back to the job vacancies, are there specific jobs or classifications? And I'm thinking about police, firefighters, but there are other important tasks for government at the state and local level. Are there certain jobs that are more prevalent, openings that are more prevalent than others?
Unfortunately, it's really an all of the above. There are about 17 different occupations that came up as hard to fill in this recent survey. And most of those have been increasing in that difficulty over the past, not 2 or 3 years, but I'd say 10 years. And that's, yes, police and corrections in particular, but also things like nursing, IT, engineering, and even positions like maintenance work or positions that require a commercial driver's license. Very often the positions that are in direct competition with the private sector.
Yeah, Gerald, how does this impact? So there are obviously police, firefighters. I can think about where that impacts the general citizen, but this lack of new employees, lack of hiring, or the ability to hire the right applicant, and therefore the job's not open, this has an impact on the delivery of government services. I'm thinking like sanitation, processing driver's licenses or renewals, which, by the way, I just went through here in North Carolina. So where does this have an impact on the citizen if someone's watching this in one of their states?
Well, the big impact is in the ability to provide services in a timely manner. Residents who are looking for services, whether that's something as simple as, let's say, a building permit, depend upon building inspectors and others who are available to provide the work that needs to be done. And again, there's direct competition with the private sector for people who might be skilled in, let's say, individual trades, where they can either work in the construction side of the equation or they can work in the permitting side of it. And if they end up choosing the private sector, it might be a longer wait for the work that you need to be done on the permitting inspection side.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking about cybersecurity. You read about all these things, IT, infrastructure, all these things really support government and the delivery of services. Gerald, I need to take a very quick break. We got to pay the bills here. When we come back, we're going to talk about the tactics and techniques and look at the pool of applicants for new government jobs. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. We're joined this morning by Gerald Young of Missionsquare Research Institute. Gerald, thanks so much for staying with us this morning. Really appreciate you hanging around for segment number 2.
Yeah, glad to.
It's a fun conversation. And so I think we set it up real well. I mean, there are still challenges for state and local governments in terms of hiring. Let's take a look at these open positions. Is there a large pool of applicants? So when a position gets posted, are a lot of people applying for these positions?
Well, there are applicants. I think the better question is, are there enough qualified applicants? And that's the problem, is that in many cases there are not. And, looking at those, types of positions that were deemed hard to fill, for 70% or more, they were finding that they weren't getting as many qualified applicants as they had vacant positions. So that leads to either needing to reopen the recruitments or to just an extended time to hire. And that in turn, leads, let's say, the qualified applicants that are out there to, potentially decide that it's not worth waiting and seek jobs elsewhere. So it can really become a vicious circle after a while.
Yeah, and I want to talk about relaxation of some of those qualifications in a few minutes. But how important is compensation? I mean, look, at the end of the day, numbers are numbers. We're in an inflationary trend right now in the economy. How important is compensation to attracting people to work for government?
Compensation is definitely important. And, it arises not only at the hiring point, but also in exit interviews, where employees are saying that one of the reasons that they are leaving is because they feel their compensation is not competitive. But salary is only one component of that. And while the percentage who are saying that they feel their salaries are competitive with the labor market is a little bit lower, 53% or so, most of the HR managers that we've been surveying are saying that their benefits package is extremely competitive. And it's not just a matter of saying that, well, hey, we've got benefits and, maybe that balances out the salary side of things. It's also in communicating the value of that overall compensation package, doing that not only at the time of hiring or onboarding, but throughout somebody's employment so that they understand, let's say, as they get to different life stages, that they have other benefits that might be of greater value to them at that time. But also looking at some of those intangibles. And two of the things that really come up the most in terms of motivating factors for people who are working in the public sector are finding meaningful work and feeling like they are being of service to their community, and also feeling like they are advancing the organization, that there's room for them to grow, whether that's via professional development opportunities or perhaps just advancing to a new level within their department or organization. And those are things that the state and local government sectors
Yeah, and
can do
yeah,
that.
I'm sorry for jumping on you, Gerald. There, I didn't mean to do that. It used to be you mentioned benefits, and I just want to kind of follow up with this for a second. Defined benefit plan, defined contribution plan. Those are important benefits, I would presume. But there are other benefits, and I'm thinking about student loan repayment benefits that are now available. We just came through COVID, so maybe life insurance, healthcare, and really, you want to compare apples to apples when you're looking at different offers, right? You want to see all of that, to me, as part of that compensation. You want to be able to compare not only your direct compensation, but also your benefits for a government job, but also a private sector job. That all adds up.
Yeah, and speaking of those intangibles, it also includes things like flexibility. Not to say that employers need to provide work from home opportunities, but even the flexibility to say that an employee might be able to work different hours, to come into work a little bit earlier, leave a little bit earlier, vice versa, depending upon what their family responsibilities may be. Or, in terms of those benefits, the option to purchase additional coverages that might make more sense to them, whether that's something like pet insurance or things that might benefit them more in estate planning or elder care. Again, a lot of it depends on one's life stage, and it's not necessarily, as you look at retirement benefits, that's necessarily going to be the item that appeals most to, for instance, the youngest of the employees coming into the organization.
Gerald, let's talk about tactics, because I feel like a lot of the conversation we're having, and I know it's specific to government, but some of these challenges are facing different not-for-profit, for-profit. How are state and local governments adjusting their tactics to find suitable applicants and also retain those employees so that they stay for a longer time and don't go into another position, either in government or in the private sector?
Yeah. Well, on the recruitment side, part of it is reevaluating what they are recruiting for and how they're doing that. So it might be that they are doing classification and compensation studies to see that not only are they compensating appropriately for what they're seeking, but that the tasks that are related to that position are up to date. Very often those, are the least of the priorities in terms of getting things accomplished for the community. But when those tasks can be updated, you're better recruiting for what you really need. And that might include saying that, we've had a degree requirement on this position. Maybe that's not applicable. Maybe that's not what really defines what's needed here. As an example, within the IT field, it's certainly possible for somebody to be qualified to provide IT related services based upon certifications they have accumulated or on the job experience, as opposed to simply a bachelor's degree. So if there are multiple routes to get there, then leaving that flexible might be a better way of going. But it's also a matter of looking at whether there are other routes to get somebody up to the level they need to be, whether that's via apprenticeships or internships, or possibly hiring below the level of the requirements of the position and upskilling afterward.
Well, Gerald, just to kind of tie things back to our first part of this segment, I want to talk about the relaxation of qualifications. It sounds like experience is important. You may not need a bachelor's degree for some positions, but there's a need to fill a role. And so how do you balance that relaxation of certain qualifications with the need to fill a role and hence deliver government services?
Yeah, I think what's been going on is that, yes, there is some reevaluation of what's needed for individual positions, but there's also a lot of attention being paid to how recruitments are taking place. So, perhaps the traditional way of doing that is via, maybe more bureaucratic text in a job advertisement. But the more popular ways of advertising those positions these days for those government positions is via social media, or video campaigns, things that, really transcend text in the first place, but also outreach to individual or targeted groups, whether that's neighborhood associations or colleges or specialty media markets where, perhaps you're not appealing to people in the same way that perhaps that traditional advertisement might. And also putting more focus on what you can accomplish in the job as opposed to strictly the knowledge, skills, and abilities that might have been the standard for what you were recruiting for in the past.
Yeah.
And really that ties back to that willingness to be of service to the community so much better than, strictly ticking off what the successful candidate has had in the past.
Yeah, really interesting. And just like the private sector, everyone's competing for resources. Gerald, we're going to have to leave it there. Great research as always. Thanks for stopping by the program, and we look forward to having you and your colleagues back on the program again very soon.
Great. Thank you, Jeffrey.
That wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest curated news and lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more, all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Post. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content, visit our website, and of course, all of our streaming partners. We're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN AM. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes. Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the First Lifestyle and Wellness Network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.